I'm on Stanley Street in downtown Montreal, and back in the 1970s, this is where much of Montreal's 2SLGBTQ plus community lived. Now, all these years later, a slice of that history is being remembered by Canada Post on a stamp, the Truxx bar raid. I'm going to speak with Thom Seivewright about it. He's an expert in queer history. Hey Thom, so we're outside what once was the Truxx bar. It's changed since. But tell me, why was it so popular with the gay community in Montreal in the 70s?
In the 70s, this street was kind of the epicenter of gay culture, queer culture. The current day village is near Papineau, Beaudry. It used to be all around here. So back in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, this is where most of those places were located. But the Truxx in the 1970s was kind of known as this sort of like a leather daddy cruising bar. It was the type of place where you probably went with the intention of meeting someone and having a good time.
1977, Montreal police raided Truxx bar. About 100 people were arrested. What led to that raid?
There was the queer liberation movement, which was really in full force. And then there was also the 1976 Summer Olympics. It's a fact that is sad, but it remains a fact. Go to any city that has an Olympic Games and you'll probably hear stories of displacement. In Montreal in the 1970s, the community that was really targeted was the queer community, Montreal's gay community. It probably had to do with geography a little bit. This was the part of town that was the gay part of town. It was also where all the big hotels were and all the tourists were to be coming. So the city administration started putting pressure on the police force to raid a lot of the gay bars on a regular basis to sort of discourage them from going out and hanging out in these places, hoping that it would feel a little less gay by the time the Olympics came around. But then the raids continued after the Olympics, and this is where it gets interesting. This created a culture of homophobia within the police force that might not have represented the general culture of Montreal at that time. And this raid, more than any other, kind of shocked people because it was incredibly violent.
So that one stood out, and that's why we're seeing it highlighted by Canada Post. But there was legislative change as a result of particularly this raid. Can you tell us about that?
You know, if there's going to be a silver lining, this is it. The raid was incredibly violent. The police that came here that day were dressed in riot gear. They were wearing bulletproof vests. They arrested about 140 men, pushed them out onto the street. There were photographers taking pictures. Those pictures were being published in local publications, essentially outing people. The outcry from this was that the queer community rallied together the following day. They did a protest right on the corner over here. Over 2,000 people showed up. People were afraid of being fired because their pictures showed up in publications, and there were no laws protecting gay people from being fired simply based on their sexual orientation. The result was the Quebec government enacted in 1977 a piece of legislation. They modified the Quebec charter and basically included sexual orientation as something that you could not discriminate against, especially in the workplace. And this all stemmed from here. And Quebec was one of the first places in the world to do that, which makes me very proud.
Why should we remember it all these years later?
What we're seeing in the current political and social climate of today is kind of a regression. Queer people, LGBTQ2IA plus people have been having this trajectory of gaining rights little by little. It often is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But in the last 10 years, it's been many steps back. We have gone back and a lot of rights are being taken away globally. In Montreal, in Quebec, in Canada, we're pretty lucky. We're in a pretty comfortable position, but I would not want that comfort to turn into complacency. I want to highlight the trans communities, especially these days, because they are being vilified, they are being picked on, they are a scapegoat for politicians, and this cannot continue. Everyone in that LGBT umbrella, we all need to come together and make sure that our rights are protected and not taken away from us, because if we don't know what happened in the past, we're doomed to repeat it.